In the World Cup group stage, a single tactical lapse can end a 4-year campaign. This specific match presents a unique problem for analysts. There is no historical data between Côte d'Ivoire and Ecuador to help build a forecast. Without past meetings to draw from, we have to strip away the noise and look purely at the tactical systems on the pitch. We are looking at a collision between high-variance aggression and low-variance discipline. Côte d'Ivoire brings an aggressive, chaotic energy. They play fast and direct, prioritizing physical duels over ball retention. Ecuador counters that energy with intense focus. They stay calm and deeply organized, relying on a rigid defensive structure. A match this polarized is an ultimate test of exactly which system breaks first under 90 minutes of high stress. Mapping these teams onto a tactical grid reveals how far apart they truly are. The horizontal axis measures the speed of attack, while the vertical axis tracks whether a team relies on physical power or technical passing. Côte d'Ivoire occupies the top left. Their game model is built on raw intensity and direct vertical play. Ecuador sits in the exact opposite corner. They prioritize spatial control and calculated, patient movement. These philosophies are in direct friction. Côte d'Ivoire wants a physical fight, while Ecuador wants a controlled chess match. Success depends on which team can force the other completely out of their optimal quadrant. Let's break down the mechanics of the Côte d'Ivoire system. Executing a high-tempo press requires a massive amount of physical momentum. You are constantly crashing forward to force a mistake. This strategy involves committing multiple players high up the pitch to overwhelm defenders the moment they touch the ball. When it works, it creates immediate turnovers and forces the aerial battles that Côte d'Ivoire is built to win. But look at the space left behind. By pushing so many bodies forward, the defense is left completely exposed to a quick break. If that pressure doesn't yield an early goal, the shape begins to fracture. Fatigue leads to tactical fouls and defensive gaps. Côte d'Ivoire is essentially wagering their defensive safety for the chance at an immediate, chaotic strike. Ecuador answers this chaos with a disciplined low block. By dropping the defensive line deep, they eliminate the space between the defense and the midfield. This clustered shape deflects direct attacks and forces the opponent to pass harmlessly around the perimeter. This system requires absolute focus. Players must flawlessly track runners and clear second balls to prevent the block from crumbling. The cost is high. Ecuador willfully gives up possession and allows the opposition to attack them for long stretches. They absorb this pressure specifically to empty out the rest of the pitch. Ecuador is betting that their structural integrity will eventually outlast the energy of the Ivorian attack. The outcome of the match hinges on the split second when Ecuador wins the ball back deep in their own half. That static defensive shape instantly transforms into a synchronized, rapid counterattack, exploding forward with precise speed and intent. Their wide players are built for this transition, immediately sprinting to exploit the gaps in the Ivorian defense. This flowchart shows the path to a goal. A deep turnover leads to a wide sprint, targeting space left behind by the press. But if Côte d'Ivoire scores early, this plan falls apart. Ecuador's speed is less effective when chasing the game. This is a transition war. Ecuador needs one perfect counterattack, while Côte d'Ivoire needs one forced error. Analyzing how time affects these tactics reveals two very different victory conditions. For Côte d'Ivoire, the critical window is the first 20 minutes. They need to establish dominance while their energy is at its peak. An early lead forces Ecuador to abandon their defensive shell. Once the game opens up, it favors Côte d'Ivoire's physical intensity. Ecuador's path to victory involves surviving that initial 30-minute storm. Every minute the score stays 0-0, the Ivorian press loses energy. The clock is Ecuador's primary weapon. Midfield fatigue increases the probability of a lethal Ecuadorian counterattack. In a clash this balanced, the winner is the side that maintains disciplined risk management. When we project the high turnover rates against Ecuador's transition efficiency, the model suggests a narrow 2-1 result for Ecuador. Tournament history shows structured defenses capitalizing on transitions have a higher success rate than high-variance pressing. Will you trust the math of discipline, or do you believe in the power of chaos? Tell us your prediction in the comments.